Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Well, my name is Rahmi Hanifa, and in this good opportunity, I would like to share you my presentation under the title Global Warming. Before we step to the topic of global warming, who knows what is the difference between climate and weather? Weather is the current condition of the atmosphere for a specific location on Earth. Some of the factors that are included in weather measurements are air temperature, wind speed and direction, cloud cover, humidity, and precipitation. Climate is a measure of the average weather condition over a large region over a much longer period of time. Climate also includes many of some factors as weather. Atmosphere is essential for life. It provides the oxygen and carbon dioxide that are required by living things. Atmosphere is an insulating blanket that traps heat and keeps temperature sustainable for life, neither too hot nor too cold. Have you ever gone mountain climbing before? Did you realize that the atmosphere in the mountain is decreased because the density of air in the atmosphere decreases with altitude? Air pressure also decreases with altitude. There are more air molecules closer to Earth's surface than at higher altitudes. This is because air is compressible. The weight of overlying air pushes molecules downward, so they pack relatively tight together near the ground. At sea level, air pressure is at its highest. Now, let's talk about global warming. Global warming is the phenomenon of increasing average air temperatures near the surface of Earth over the past 1 to 2 centuries. Greenhouse effect. Greenhouse effect process began with the sun. Shines its rays to the Earth. Most radiation is absorbed by the Earth's surface and warms it. Some solar radiation is reflected by the Earth and the atmosphere. Infrared radiation is emitted by the Earth's surface, and some of the infrared radiation passes through the atmosphere. Some is absorbed and re-emitted in all directions by greenhouse gas molecules. The effect of this is to warm the Earth's surface and the lower temperatures. The causes of global warming. The first is combustion of vehicles. The amount of carbon dioxide produced by a single car is less than that produced by a large factory. However, many of us use cars every day and carbon dioxide emissions add up. The combined carbon dioxide emissions and other pollution from cars and on day-to-day basis have caused many of our large cities to be noticeably hazy and smoggy. Complete combustion reactions produce only carbon dioxide. Incomplete combustion reactions also produce carbon monoxide. Fuel plus oxygen, the product of it is carbon dioxide and water. The next is use of CFC producing equipment. In the 1997, scientists noticed that the ozone layer in the stratosphere above Antarctica was thinning. The detection of chlorine in the stratosphere led to the remarkable discovery that human activity is responsible for the loss of ozone. The culprit, it turns out, is a group of chemicals called chlorofluorocarbon. These chemicals were once commonly used in air conditioners, in aerosol spray can, and for cleaning machine parts. The next is forest burning. Not only trees help remove carbon dioxide from the air, but they also store huge amounts of carbon in their wood. When forests are cleared for agricultural process, those trees that are not harvested for wood usually burn, and is the underlying brush. This releases a tremendous amount of extra carbon dioxide into the air. Now, let's take to the impact of global warming. The first is the big thaw. Retreating glaciers and thinning sea ice are two lines of evidence to support the fact that the world is warming. Melting ice sheets and glaciers are leading to a loss of habitat for animals that live on the ice, as well as rising sea levels, which are a flood threat to low-lying lands. The next is rising seas. As mountain glaciers and ice sheets melt, They release a great deal of stored water, which eventually reach the ocean. This causes sea levels to rise. Melting ice only one part of the reason that sea levels are rising. An even bigger contribution comes from something called thermal expansion. Air expands when it is heated. This is the same process happens in liquids, which explains how a liquid filled thermometer works. The next is changing in weather patterns. Although global warming has not been responsible for increasing the number of tropical storms, climate scientists believe that it has caused by significant increase in the intensity of storms. Global warming will not bring increases in storms even all over the planet. When the weather pattern change, it also means that some areas will see fewer storms. Fewer rain and snow events mean that in certain regions the climate is going to get really dry. The next is changing in living things. All living things from the simplest bacteria to polar bears have certain adaptation that allows them to live in certain environments. When conditions in those environments change, they can either adapt to the new condition, move somewhere else where the conditions are right, or else die. And because of this increasing temperature, many microorganisms that transmit disease will get a big boost. And the result is the disease that bring spread anywhere. The example of this disease is malaria and dengue fever. The next is changing in ocean weather. Global warming not only changing the level of sea, but also the properties of the water itself. Many species of marine animals are extremely sensitive to the temperature change. During the last 20 years, marine biologists have noted that large sections of coral reefs have been due to a process called bleaching. All the extra carbon dioxide in the atmosphere isn't just changing the temperature of the ocean, it's having an effect of the chemistry of the seawater too by decreasing the amount of salinity it contains. As ocean water become warmer and less salty, the density differences become narrower. The next is social impact. The first point of social impact is people on the move. The residents of Tuvalu are an example of a growing of class of people known as environmental refugees. These people have to move somewhere and left their homeland because of several environmental changes such as droughts or floods. The next, second point is famine. As climate patterns shift, so will a regime's ability to produce food. As the global population grows, the demand for food will increase. Again, survival will come down to a willingness to share resources. The next topic is solution of global warming. The first, changing energy of use pattern. There are three main areas in which fossil fuels are used as the primary source of the power: transportation, heating and cooling for industrial and residential use, and electrical generation. In order to cut greenhouse emission, each one of these areas has to start reducing the amount of fossil fuels being used. The electrical devices we use are related to electrical power that measure in watts. The formula for calculating the use of electrical energy is pressure times in hours and divided by 2000. Divided by 1000. And this is the mathematic way. Sebuah rumah dengan daya listrik 450 watt memasang alat-alat listrik berupa 3 buah lampu 25 watt yang menyala 4 jam setiap hari. Sebuah lampu 10 watt menyala 11 jam setiap hari, dan sebuah televisi 100 watt yang dihidupkan selama 5 jam setiap hari. Jika biaya listrik PLN sebesar 300 per kilowatt, berapa biaya pemakaian listrik selama sebulan? And this is the solution. Watt equal to pressure times 31 day and equal to kilowatt. And the result of it is 28,21 kilowatt. The second is changing in patterns of energy change. For more than a century, hydroelectric plants have been using the power of water to create electricity. Besides, wind also already being harnessed on a large scale by wind farms of high-tech wind turbines. The third is transportation fuels. One of the most important measures that government can take is to raise the efficiency standard of cars and trucks. One of the most effective ways is to build more hybrid cars, which have a small gasoline engines that charge a battery. Another way of reducing oil is to increase the use of biofuels, which made from plants and organic materials. The last is changing land use pattern. The trick to saving the forest of the world is to somehow place an economic value on the living trees. The value must be greater than what the tree would be worth when it is cut down. This is the idea behind a program called Reducing Emissions from Deforestation and Forest Degradation. Now we move to the topic about technology and engineering. The example of technology is photovoltaic energy. Solar cells or photovoltaic energy convert energy from the sun into direct current electricity. There are no moving parts and no greenhouse gas emissions. Photovoltaics power refrigerators in remote villages to keep vaccines cold. They provide a small voltage to inhibit corrosion of pipelines and run irrigation pumps. And the example of engineering is asphalt color and building material. Thermal mass is the ability of material to absorb and store heat energy. A lot of heat energy is required to change the temperature of high density materials like concrete, brick, and tiles. They are therefore said to have high thermal mass. Lightweight materials such as timber have low thermal mass. Appropriate use of thermal mass throughout your home can make a big difference to comfort and heating and cooling bills. Thermal mass can store solar energy during the day and re-radiate it at night. Now, let's talk about sustainable house. A few days before, me and my group make a design of sustainable house, and this is our design. We put trees around the house. We use also mirror tinted glass for the mirroring room. And for the wall material, we use hebel or light brick because hebel has good resistance to fire, so it is not flammable and is suitable for installation in emergency staircase areas or corridors. We also put solar panel. And for the roof material, we use UPVC because it is resistant to weather. We also put folding door with tinted glass. Also, we use wood folding door for the terrace or garage. The door made from wood materials and it is recycled from used goods. For the window, we use low E glass. Okay, that's all from me. Hopefully you can get many advantage of it. Sorry for any mistakes. And last, wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.